Coming up on today's episode of the Money Pants podcast, rewards. Are you doing it wrong? Over-rewarding your kids? What harm can it do? What about under-rewarding? Does rewarding even work? Some parents claim rewards actually backfire and make kids more entitled and less willing to work. Why you may feel pressure to give your kids everything. Plus, we'll talk about the secret to framing rewards and the pitfalls of focusing on punishments. All this and more. But first, the joke of the day.
A son asked his dad if he would buy him a new bike. The dad said, "Son, if you really want something in life, you have to work for it." Now be quiet. They're just about to announce the lottery numbers. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Money Pants podcast. We're your hosts, Hannah and Fontaine Judd, and we're the proud parents of 7 sons and 6 daughters, ranging in age from college student to toddler. We're both BYU graduates and the creators of Money Pants. Head on over to CaptainMoneyPants.com to learn more about what we do and what we're all about. Today's topic is over-rewarding. Okay, Hannah, what do you got?
Okay, a hot topic that you'll find on social media is whether or not it's a good idea to reward your kids. And there are some very legitimate arguments against rewarding at all. And a lot of claims saying, hey, look, I've done this, this is what happens. Rewards don't work. Mm-hmm. But for years and years, psychologists have successfully used rewards in the most extreme situations, in prisons, in mental institutions. They're able to use rewards in these extreme situations to modify behavior.
Yeah, but houses aren't extreme situations, so that must not apply, right?
Well, it proves that rewards do work. The saying that rewards don't work and don't work long-term and don't change behavior over time, that's not true. But the question is, well, why aren't the rewards working? Why are the people getting bad results from rewarding their kids? And the thing is I don't doubt that they are getting bad results. I actually don't disagree with the claims people are making about the bad results that they're getting from rewarding. They're actually correct.
But the problem is, we know psychology...
But their conclusion is wrong. They're saying rewarding doesn't work. But the problem is they're doing it wrong.
So we know psychology has proven rewards work. So if rewards aren't working, it's something that we're doing that's wrong.
Yes. And anyway, so they're right. The rewards that they're administering, they are not working. They're actually backfiring. But it's not because rewards don't work. It's because they are not administering the rewards properly.
Got it.
And so there's actually a science to how you should go about rewarding. It's not just, oh, well, I gave it a reward, it should work.
So the argument isn't do rewards work or not. It's
how do you reward so it does work.
Got it. Okay.
And it does work long term, and the consequences are positive. And so one of the main tricks that psychologists use to properly administer these rewards is they have a careful balance of rewards so that their rewards maintain power to motivate. And what this goes back to is actually the economic principle of supply and demand.
I was going to say supply and demand. It sounds like supply and demand.
Yeah. And so the concept of rewards is very similar to the economic principle of supply and demand. When the supply is high, the demand is...
If you have an overabundance of rewards in your home, there's not going to be a demand to do anything. Like if your kids have everything, and we talk about this all the time.
Well, the price goes down. Yeah. The price is how much the kids are willing to work for it.
And if your kids have everything, they don't need to lift a finger, right? I mean, that's the whole concept of supply and demand. As the inverse relationship, you talk about it, the inverse relationship between supply and demand. Supply goes up, demand goes down. There's that inverse relationship. The more supply, in other words, the more access to treats, or the more video games, or the more candy, or the more phones, or internet, or whatever it is. If the kids have access to all of this stuff, constantly unfettered access, unlimited access to all this stuff.
It's not special anymore.
Okay, I think that's the key is rewards only work when they're special. And how do you make them special?
You limit them. Nowadays, the definition of a good parent, and you'll hear this from people, the definition of a good parent is someone who gives their children everything.
I have family members that tell me that they feel it's their job to give their kids everything. They feel it is their responsibility as a parent to give their kids everything. And I could not disagree more. I am vehemently against that concept. That is a horrible way to try to raise children. Why?
Because it takes away, they have nothing to work for.
Yeah.
They have nothing to work for. It takes away their motivation, their enthusiasm.
To do anything.
It's like, okay, well, what do I have to work for?
Everything's been handed to me on a silver platter. And we know that. We talk about that. It used to be when kids were like that, not that long ago, a couple generations ago, we would call them spoiled.
Yeah. Oh, that kid's got everything. They're spoiled. And what they meant by that is spoiled means ruined. Mm-hmm. And they would say that because the kid wouldn't be willing to work. They wouldn't go anywhere because they had no motivation to apply themselves or to be working towards something. They had nothing to work towards. It was all there already. And so it was widely understood just a couple generations ago that, oh, don't give your kids everything. It will spoil them. It will ruin them. Mm-hmm. It's not good for them. But now we've done a complete 180 and society says that's what a good parent is. And I know people think this because I have a large family. When I lived in LA and I had, young kids and they were close in age, I would have friends or acquaintances go, yeah, I would never have more than one child like you do. And I said, well, why? And they said, well, because I wouldn't be able to give my child everything. And that was their reason for not wanting more than one child, is because in their view, they wouldn't be able to be a good parent. They wouldn't be able to give their children everything. And so the question is, wait a minute, is that really what you want to be able? Is that really what you want to do, even if you can?
What that great lyrics from the band U2, they sing, "I gave you everything you ever wanted, wasn't what you wanted." Kids, believe it or not, even though they may think it, kids do not want you to give them everything. Why? Because it's telling them they can't make it on their own. They're not capable. They're not good enough. What a horrible thing. And I don't want to go into this. That's a total sidebar, but you actually don't want to give your kids everything. You want them to work for the things that they get and the things that they have, because then a whole bunch of great things happen. They appreciate it more. They develop character. They develop a work ethic. Even if I were independently wealthy, I would not give my kids everything. I would have them work for it.
No, you just reminded me. Remember when you watched that interview, you watched those interviews of children who their parents were very wealthy, and that was a surprising attitude by some of the children, is they didn't want their parents giving them everything.
Yeah, okay. So that's right. So I actually had the opportunity to edit together some interviews with some very, very wealthy people and their children. It was fascinating, and you bring up a really good point. It was fascinating to listen to the children who were angry that their parents would bail them out and would give them things, and they would wreck the car and their parents would just buy them a new one, or they would pay for their college, or they would pay for whatever they wanted, or pay for their apartment. And they were angry about it because they're like, stop it. Let me find my way in this world. Let me struggle, please. You're taking away my need to become me. It was. I would like to.
No, this
revisit
isn't. Yeah,
that.
but it's not just imagination that kids don't like it. They actually did. The parents in these cases, they actually could give their kids everything,
These
which
were people
most of us can't actually do that. These parents could.
They were independently wealthy.
Yeah,
and they did lavish all these gifts on their children.
Did not like it.
And the thing is, when they were honest, though, they're like, I'm not going to turn it down, but I hate it. And it was this weird, they were conflicted because they liked having the nice stuff, but they hated the way it made them feel about themselves. And they hated how it affected their relationships. They hated everything about it, but they liked the stuff. And so it was kind of sad, actually. But that's part of the problem is, as parents, I think We want to lavish our kids with gifts. We want to give them everything. We do. I think that's inherent.
We want them to have a better life than we had. We want them to have more than what we had. But more stuff isn't necessarily more. So there's a difference between, I gave my kid a bunch of stuff, where, wait a minute, how about you give your kid more character? than you had, or better relationships,
or more opportunities,
and help them develop their talents in a better way than you did.
Well, I've actually had my family members tell me that it is their duty to give their kids everything. That they feel that it is their duty, their responsibility as a parent, to give their kids everything.
Yeah, one time you mentioned to a relative of yours, you were explaining how money pants work, where you're like, hey, instead of paying for soccer for your kid, you instead give them the opportunity to play soccer, but say, hey, if you want this opportunity, you can have it, and here's a way you can earn it.
Right. I set the $150 aside and let them earn it.
And she shook her head and she goes, no. They should not be having to earn that. That's your duty as a parent.
To pay for soccer.
That's their right to pay for soccer. And so this whole concept of money pants, whether or not you use our app, the concept of money pants that we're promoting is this idea of, hey, we've kind of gone to an extreme here of saying that you should hand kids everything. That's extreme. And we're saying, hey, back it up a notch, back off a notch. Give your kids these opportunities, but let them work for it.
Okay, so that's just it, though. Here's the thing. If you're rich and you could afford to give your kid a Ferrari or a BMW or a Porsche or whatever, that's fantastic. We're not saying don't do that. We're saying, but set it up so that your kid can earn it. Don't just give them the Porsche. Say, hey, tell you what, if you earn your Eagle Scout by the time you're 18, you'll earn this Porsche. Or if you get straight A's for two semesters in a row or whatever it is, you will earn the Porsche.
Yeah. If let's say you have a kid on drugs and you're like, okay, you go through rehab and you do this or you do that. That actually helps. Use it in some way, whatever your kid's working on, whatever they're struggling with, use it to help them progress,
become their best selves.
Better.
Yeah.
Instead of just wasting that and going, you can have it, use it to not only give them the Porsche that you're able to afford, but get more out of it. And help them, and they will be so much more satisfied. And every time they get into their car or whatever, they'll be like, hey, I did this. And I earned this. And they'll feel good about themselves as opposed to, Mom and Dad gave it to me.
And the thing is,
it's not the same.
And that's part of the issue. And again, I don't really want to get into this on this podcast, but we've kind of become we are a very rich nation. We have things that a lot of other nations just don't even have. But we take it for granted, thinking that's the norm, even to the extent now where we have defined a good parent as someone who gives their kids everything. And that's very unhealthy, and it's not good for the kids, and it's not good for the parents, and it definitely is not good for society.
Yeah. So this over-rewarding, this attitude of over-rewarding, where it's not even considered rewards, it's considered duty and the rights, and you deserve this.
I can't believe she said it was a right.
Yeah. I mean, she honestly thought it was a right. Playing soccer is a right. Anyway, so this attitude, so what we're going to do today is we're going to point out some of the things that you're probably giving to your kids that should be rewards, but that maybe you're giving to your kids and just going, that's just how it is.
And it's not.
And
it doesn't have to be that way.
You actually have a lot more rewarding capability under your belt as a parent.
Even if you're poor, you have a lot. You have a lot more opportunities to reward.
And it does not necessarily have to be money. In fact, ideally, you want to use money and all sorts of other privileges as rewards. And so,
but here's the thing: it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, you would think more rewarding, giving more and more and more, but at some point, if somebody has everything,
they become saturated. The reward market, so to speak, has become saturated.
Yeah, if somebody has a closet they can't even close because it's full of toys and clothing, handing them more clothing handing them more toys.
Offering them more toys to...
They don't actually even want it. They can't even... It's not actually something they want.
What's the analogy you used earlier? You winning the lottery, right? It's like people who win the lottery, do they have a motive to work?
Yeah, a lot of them, they're like, oh, I'm quitting my job. Sometimes they announce it as they're getting their reward. I quit my job. Bye, boss.
The thing is, though, is that a lot of kids have essentially won the lottery with these rich parents who, and a lot of times, in a lot of families, both the parents work. And to sustain this lifestyle of having a lot of things, I'm not making a commentary on our society, but I am saying that things do not equate to integrity. Things do not make a person better.
Things do not make a person happy.
And things don't, exactly. And so what we're all about, what Money Pants is all about, is helping your family, each member of the family, become their best selves by giving them the opportunity to earn and develop
things they get.
To develop the characteristics that they want and earn some of the things that they get. That's the whole concept behind Money Pants. And what upends that is over-rewarding. Over-rewarding does not work long-term. And so let's talk about that just for a little bit, where I think you had the example of, I'm not going to name names here, but there was
a friend of mine.
A good friend of yours.
A friend of mine. Okay, so yeah, here's an example of someone who wasn't aware that they were rewarding their kids.
Over-rewarding.
That they were over-rewarding their kids. I was trying to explain Money Pants to a friend of mine, and she interrupted me, and she said, I've tried that. The other day, I offered my kids $0.25 if they would get their chores done. And I begged and I pleaded with them, and I held the money out, and they wouldn't move. They just ignored me, and they just kept watching TV.
So
Stop. So she was offering them money, but they didn't want the money. They were watching TV.
But she had concluded that rewards didn't work.
So she concluded rewards didn't work.
Yeah.
But what she didn't realize is that the kids were already enjoying the reward.
They had the reward.
They were doing exactly what they wanted to do. They were watching their favorite TV show. That was the reward.
So the $0.25 paled in comparison to the TV show.
Yeah, they would have been willing to pay $0.25 or $2 to watch the TV show.
And that's another concept that we talk about, is finding out what rewards your kids want, what your kids' hot buttons are. Some kids hate TV. Some kids don't like video games. Some kids don't like candy. But every kid has something that they really want.
That means something to them.
It could be money. It could be TV. It could be candy. It could be social outings. It could be a car. It could be driving privileges, whatever. Every kid has something that they really want. I have a kid, for example, who would pretty much do anything if he can spend a couple hours modeling on his 3D program. He loves it. He'll do anything if he can get on that computer and create some new robot or some new jet engine or something that he's envisioned in his mind.
Yeah.
That's just his thing.
So in this case of my friend, what would have been effective, what would have got her kids moving, is for her to unplug the TV. That's all she needed to do. And reframe it and say, hey guys, you want to watch this show? Do you want to finish watching this show? Tell you what, if everyone gets their jobs done, we'll finish watching this.
Brilliant.
And all of a sudden she transformed something she was already doing and that she already knew they wanted into a reward.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't unplug the TV and say, hey, we're not watching TV. No, she just said,
you bunch of losers.
Awesome. I know.
Get back to work.
I know now what it is you want.
Mm-hmm.
And use that as the reward. That was the reward. Yeah, I just thought of different households where Trixie had a friend when she was in first grade where she'd go over to her house, and on every table they had like bowls of chocolate and candies and things like that, where it was an unlimited, and the kids could eat as many treats as they wanted all through the day. Of course, their kids had awful cavities. I remember she had fillings all through her mouth. I'm like, okay, well, that's why. Yeah. So, but that was
maybe one of the bowls should have had toothbrushes.
Yeah, yeah. One of the anyway. So if you have a situation like that, maybe change it around a little. Maybe don't put candy out an unlimited supply. and make it special. Make it a special
I really
thing.
like that term, making rewards special, making TV time special, making screen time special, making games special.
So another example are toddlers. A lot of times toddlers have all their toys in their room. They're in bins and all their toys, their closets full of it, and they have access to their toys. I learned this from my mom once got me a book from Mrs. Duggar, where she figured out she had built a toy room in her house, but she would put all the toys in bins in a closet up high, and she could lock it, I believe. And she would only pull out the toys, a bin of toys, one a day. And that way, when she pulled out a new bin of toys, the kids weren't sick of it. And it would be like having a brand new toy because they hadn't seen that toy in 3 weeks. Whereas she's like, yeah, if the toys are always there, the kids get tired of it. And so basically, she figured out a way to make the toys special. But also, the great thing with toddlers is not only now are the toys special, but you can use it as a reward. Hey, as soon as you clean up the living room, that's your job. And
I'll get the toy bin out.
We'll get the toys out.
I'll get the train set out.
I'll let you pick which bin to get out.
Well, not only that, the other side effect is the toys wouldn't all get
there were a lot of benefits to it. It was really a smart idea. That was my favorite.
That's great because then the toys are always exciting, new, something they look forward to.
They were special.
Because they were special because there was limited access.
Yeah, that was the most brilliant piece of advice. I was like, wow. So instead of kids getting tired of their toys, her kids never got tired of their toys.
That's really good.
But that was the same concept. She made them special. They didn't have access to all their toys 100% of the time. And so she used that concept, but you can take it a step further, use that concept, and then make it a reward for behavior that you want. Now, one thing we learned, and it actually took us a while to realize this, was media. Because phones came out when we were a young couple.
Right.
And they became inexpensive. They were cool. You could do so much on your phone. And,
phones didn't come out. Smartphones did.
Yeah, smartphones.
The iPhone came
out
when our kids were really young.
Yeah, and so our oldest son just thought phones were
Phones
super...
came out when we were young. I remember Alexander Graham Bell. No, smartphones.
Smartphones.
What we're talking about
sorry.
Here. Because they could do some really cool things. There were all sorts of cool games and cameras and photo
calculators.
apps.
You could take pictures, and it was like the ultimate toy.
And we already had money pants.
Yeah.
And I remember Caleb.
He wanted a phone.
That kid loves technology. He just, if it's computer related, he loves it. Mm-hmm. He loves tinkering on the computer. He likes being on the computer. He likes doing stuff with the computer. It's just really cool to him. And he saw the iPhone as like the holy grail of technology, where he could have a computer in his pocket. And he was 8, and he saved up $100 because one of my coworkers said, "Hey, I got this. I upgraded to the new iPhone, and do you want my old one?
I'll sell it to you for $100."
Which was a great deal at the time. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I bought it from him, and he had actually offered it to my son. I bought it though for my coworker, and then offered it to Caleb as a reward for doing all of his jobs and saving. He saved up enough money, which he did.
It took him a long time, and he worked really hard, and we were really proud of him.
It was come on, an 8-year-old saving up $100.
We were like so proud of him. We gave him this phone.
No, we didn't give it to him. We sold it to him.
Well, we sold it to him after he worked really hard to earn it.
We let him buy it, I guess.
And we let him buy it, and within a week, we realized that was a huge mistake.
A colossal mistake.
It was a colossal.
Why? Why was it a colossal mistake?
That's all he wanted to do.
We could not
motivate him to do anything else.
It wasn't like he was playing games on it either. I got on it one day, and he, no joke, probably had 1,000 photographs of every nook and cranny in his room. He loved the technology. He thought it was so cool that he had a digital camera on his phone that he could keep in his pocket. He would just futz around with it constantly.
Yeah.
And he had pictures of the corner of his bed, his bedspread, the corner of his bedstand, the corner of the room. Like,
But we could not detach him from this phone.
And then he would mess around with the filters and then crop. And it's like, it was...
But it was his phone.
It was excessive, though. And we couldn't get him to do anything else. Once he got the phone, he didn't want to do anything else because he got what he wanted.
Yeah. His dream had come true.
And it was also almost obsessive.
Yeah.
At what he would do with that phone. Anyway, we ended up, I think you say a week?
Finally,
was it a week?
It was sad, but maybe a month.
It was not very long.
It was not very long. We talked about it in private, and we came to the conclusion that, and maybe, I don't know if we came to the conclusion then or in the future.
It's been a gradual process. We've been developing our thoughts on this for a long time.
We finally came to the conclusion that children should not own media in the house. They should not own the computers. They should not own the phones.
Or the movies, or the music.
Yeah, they could earn the privilege of using them, but ultimately they belong to us.
Yeah, because it's our home, and we decide what comes and goes in the home.
Yeah, we decide what content, how much, and so we finally had to explain that to Caleb, and we had to buy the phone back from him. And so we gave him back his $100 and took the phone. And I think he may still be bitter about that, but you know what? We didn't realize that. We hadn't thought of that, and we didn't know. Phones were new, and
there was no precedent for that.
Yeah, and
we couldn't ask the older generation. We couldn't go to them for advice because they're like, I don't know, that didn't exist when I was around.
Yeah, and even later we thought, like with older kids, we can give them a phone, but put these limits on it. But then it turns out that all the kids at school, they know how to override all the limits that you put on the phone. In fact, the kids at school, they'll give each other and sell each other phones, and they don't even need to be on your phone plan. They can just access... It's
there's a bunch of free services out there, and
so
we decided, okay, media, we can use that though as a reward. So instead of saying no media, no access, we're like, okay, we kind of overdid it. We learned from our mistake that unlimited access to media or unlimited access to phones or unlimited access to computers was a bad thing.
Yeah,
that was actually it was bad for my son. But
if they get addicted to like social media and things like that, we're like, or pornography or other things where all of a sudden,
or texting,
and then they can get all the free music and the free games and and all of a sudden they have everything they could possibly want access to.
But a lot of time wasters too that are addictive.
Yeah,
that you don't want and they don't want.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the conclusion we came to. You may come to a different conclusion, but I feel like we made a lot of mistakes when it came to phones. And I really regret anytime my kids were either given a phone or I gave them a phone, I regretted it. And the negative far outweighed the positive.
And that's not to say not to say there weren't positives, but it was like for the 3 positives of them having phones, there were 38 negatives.
Yeah.
Where it was like, we don't need that level of aggravation or anxiety or those problems in our home. We just don't need it.
And that's not to say that every kid would have all the same problems, but
no, we
it's
have
just
kids that would be
lot
fine.
Of, yeah. And so finally we just came to the conclusion that, you know what, technology, mom and dad control it in this house. You can earn the right to use it, but we own it.
And that would apply to...
You don't have a TV in your bedroom. We don't give you a TV for your birthday. We don't give you access to... the computers belong to us. And we determine screen time. We determine that. And you're like, oh, that's very controlling. Yes, it is. But we've decided from sad experience that it's for their good. So... But
at the same time, so there was a customer of ours who learned this the hard way as well. Where she set up money pants, or at least the concept of money pants.
Right.
The problem was she didn't follow.
She didn't implement the whole thing. She just started paying her kids for stuff.
She's like, oh, I'll pay my kids for stuff.
And she didn't implement. And so
she had a
the whole
son
system
who really wanted an Xbox, and he worked really hard
for 1 week.
For a week, and
earned $150.
Unfortunately, because this mother was over rewarding, this kid earned $150 the first week of using Money Pants, or at least this concept.
And didn't have any like financial responsibilities.
He went out and bought himself an Xbox, or was it an Xbox or an Xbox game? I can't remember. He went out and bought like a game console and a game that came with it that he had really, really wanted. And then after that, he wouldn't lift a finger.
He would not do anything.
She could not get him to do anything. All he wanted to do was play his game.
And he's like, "It's mine, Mom. I own it.
I bought it because I earned that money." And she didn't have a leg to stand on. She's like, "Oh yeah, that's right. He earned it. I paid him. He bought it with his own money. Oh, what have I done?" She learned the hard way the negatives of over rewarding, where she had way overpaid him, first of all.
When you give your kid a TV or you give them a game console with the game and just, oh, it's yours, and all of a sudden it turns into an over reward if they can just, play it whenever for however long.
And a kind of a sidebar to that is when you're giving your kids money, if they're earning money, and that's something we do espouse. If you are giving your kids money and not just privileges or access to video games or whatever, if you're giving them money, make sure you are also giving them a comparable amount of financial responsibilities with that money. Mm-hmm. And that's something we're going to talk about in the future.
We will talk about that. That's another
aspect of rewards. Where when you're rewarding with money, especially with Money Pants, and they can earn considerable amounts of money, but that's because they have considerable financial obligations that go with it.
Yeah, there's a balance of
the $150 you were going to spend on soccer, they can now earn, but it's going to soccer.
Yeah, they now have this $150.
It's not a free for all of $150. So anyway, that was a concept that some parents also didn't grasp, and that, again.
Yeah, if it just turns into you paying your kid a bunch of money that they can spend on joy rides, it's not going to work, and it will not work long term.
So what we want to do though is, your kids, if you introduce this concept to them, there's going to be a lot of pushback because like, wait, what? You're not paying for soccer anymore? What? I have to buy my own clothes? What? Oh, this is horrible. This is tyranny. What's going on? Say, no. You need to reframe it. You need to, the psychological term for this is reframing, where you take the idea and turn it into something positive. So for instance, your kid wants to drive the car, and say, instead of saying, no, you can't drive the car unless you do your job, say, no. I want you to drive the car. I'm happy for you. I want you to have that privilege.
You can earn it by doing this.
Exactly. Where
absolutely. Absolutely, you can use the car. If you get this done, you get your homework done, and you make sure your chores are done for the week, you can absolutely use the car.
I mean, there's the example. There's the example of the dad who, was he a customer of ours as well?
When we were first starting out, we had just introduced the idea of Money Pants to him, and he had young kids, and I was explaining how I would teach toddlers how to work for the first time. Mm-hmm. And with very young kids, you have to reward them frequently, mm-hmm. more frequently. Older kids, you can pay them once a week. Payday once a week works great. Right. But they understand the delayed gratification. Very young children, they don't understand that. And also kids with disabilities, certain disabilities, have a similar thing where they need more frequent rewards. Anyway, so I was explaining to him, when I'm teaching a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old how to do a job, I'll use jelly beans. And I was explaining how that process works. But needless to say, when I reward toddlers with a treat, I use the smallest treat possible. Like I'll use like Tic Tacs. And I won't reward them with more than like 5 to 10, 10 max. Or Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its or a little popcorn or just a very, very small treat.
One popcorn.
But I'll give it to them frequently when I'm first training them how to do something. But I'll really minimize it anyway. And so the next time we met with this dad, he's like, well, he thought he outsmarted the system. He's like, you know what? I did what you said, but you know what? They worked so hard. I just gave him the whole bag of jelly beans. He just gave him he was so
excited that they were actually working. He's like, you did great, and gave him the whole bag. Yeah. Unwittingly upended the next day.
Yeah, sabotaged the next day, because if your kids have a giant bag of jelly beans they weren't even able to finish in one sitting, or they did and got sick of them, they're not going to be willing to work for that the next day. Yeah. And so with toddlers, whatever that treat is that I'm using, whether I'm using a tiny cookie or a Tic Tac, or I don't give that to them any other time, and I only give them a couple during just a very minimal amount because I don't want them to get sick of it. I want them to leave wanting more.
Exactly. And I this may sound harsh or whatever, but you actually want to keep your kids hungry for rewards.
You don't want to saturate.
Yeah. You want to keep them hungering and thirsting after more rewards.
Kind of like, when you're a guest at someone's house, you want to leave before they get sick of you.
Ah, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly.
You want to leave with them wishing you would come back and looking forward to when you come back again. The same thing with rewards. You want to leave before they get sick of them.
So that's what we want to do with when you reframe things as a reward. Unfortunately, because parents are in kind of a desperate situation, they're giving their kids unlimited TV or games or movies or treats or phones, and they're sabotaging the next day or the next week because the kids have everything they want and there's nothing to work for. And the only option then is to go bigger and better. Like, okay, well, I got you an Xbox last week. I'm going to have to get you an Xbox and a PlayStation this week and 3 new games. And like, it just escalates to the point where it becomes absurd, where you can't keep upping the ante because at some point it's just the kids lose all motivation.
Yeah. And that goes back to the concept of what we're promoting to parents is, hey, look, you're giving your kids everything. Pull back a little. Let them
for
earn
example,
some of it.
Put the toys in the bins out of reach.
Oh, yeah.
Get rid of unlimited treats. Only allow educational internet for school. Here's a big one. Turn off the TV. Turn off YouTube and video games. No joke. You can go on YouTube. You can go on YouTube and watch Dad smashing video game consoles. There's a whole collection of them on YouTube where Dad gets so frustrated the kid hasn't mowed the lawn because he's busy playing video games. Here's the secret. Turn them off.
Turn them off. Put them away. And say, you get to do this when you're done.
And if you are giving your kids money, make sure you attach, financial responsibilities. But the point is, reframe it to say, hey, I know you really like this video game XYZ.
Hey, you're good at it. You like it.
All your friends are on there. Tell you what, you get
2 hours
your
this
math
weekend.
homework done. You get your math homework done Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and you can play for 2 hours Wednesday night, and then get your homework done Thursday, Friday, and get the lawn mowed Saturday. You can play for 4 hours Saturday night. Something like that where you're reframing it to be like, I know you like it, so let's just help you out with it. And as the parent, that's your job.
Yeah.
Kids need that, and they want, believe it or not, they actually want that. They want that structure and those limits.
It's healthier for your kids. Was it healthy for those parents to have all the candy treats out all the time? No,
their dentist would say no.
Yeah, their kids' teeth were rotting out.
The dentist would say no.
Is it healthy for your kid to just be glued to their Xbox every single night? Is that healthy for them? Is that balanced? Is it good for them? No.
But do they like it?
And do they like it? No. They're turning into losers because all of a sudden think of all the things that they're not doing.
I remember when Nintendo came out. When I was a kid, Nintendo came out, and my dad always was on the cutting edge of technology. He had the first color monitor. He had the first Apple IIe. He had all the latest and greatest tech. He had the first cell phone in his car. It was just, that's how he was. And he bought a Nintendo, and those were addictive. Those Nintendo game consoles with the games, they were addictive. And I remember I was a good student, and I remember getting on there and playing a game, and I couldn't stop. I hated it. I hated the fact that I couldn't stop playing the game. I didn't want to keep playing. I wanted to do my homework, but I couldn't stop playing. And I wished I had had a parent who had set up limits, who had taken the plug to the Nintendo and said, hey, I'm going to hold this plug with me, and if you get your homework done, then I'll plug it back in. I wish I had had a parent who had just stepped in and set some limits for me, to the point where, and I got to go find it, because at one point I made myself a motivational tape. I did. And basically it lasted all of like 1 minute, where it was something like, well, first I want you to check, is all your homework done? Make sure you check your math. Make sure you check your science. And one other thing, get off the Nintendo and get to work. That was my motivational tape. Like somehow I was trying to motivate myself to not play games.
Because you didn't have a parent doing that for you.
I did not. But I was maybe 12, 13 years old. So I know from experience.
That was very mature of you.
Yeah, maybe. It didn't work, though. That's the point.
But you were trying to be your dad.
I really was. But I knew deep down inside it wasn't making me a better person. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't like it. Uh-huh. And I wanted those limits. And it should have been a reward for me getting my homework done. I don't know why. Maybe I inherently understood this concept. Or maybe everybody does.
Back to like reframing and how you frame it. Who's that comedian who says it's all about the spin, baby?
Oh, what is his name? James Connolly? James P. Connolly?
Yeah, he's hilarious.
I've never seen him in anything, but he's hilarious. He's like, it's all about the spin, baby.
I don't remember his jokes. Every time I listen to his stuff, though, it cracks me up. But how you phrase your rewards, you want to be careful when you're setting up these rewards and reframing some of these things that you've previously been giving your kids for free, basic, like just giving to them, and now you want them to earn it. Be careful that you don't make it insulting, or hey, you guys are lazy and you're not working for any of this, and so now you're gonna get off your butts and you're gonna start working for it. Don't be negative like that.
Instead, it's, hey, I know you want to learn piano, or I know you want to be a better soccer player, or I know you love basketball, or I know.
So this is what we're gonna do.
We're gonna help you.
We're gonna help you do this. And so how you frame it.
But it's a correct principle, though. Even for adults, if you're working really hard, you need to have a reward for yourself. It's just a correct principle.
Yeah. Well, I one time I was teaching a music class with kids, and we were learning a bunch of songs, and I thought it would be fun. The fourth class, when we'd meet, we'd have an American Idol singing contest. And so basically I'd have the kids come up and sing a solo in front of all the other kids and see which contestant could get the furthest through the song without messing up on any of the words. Mm-hmm. And we'd have judges in the back, and it was this fun competition, and I would bring homemade bread, and the winners would get to take home a loaf of bread. Anyway, and it was this thing everybody looked forward to.
That was your artisan bread, though, which was awesome.
Oh, it was super good. But the kids would look forward to this. Anyway, one time another teacher came along, and it was her turn to teach, but she hadn't been there for all this stuff. She didn't quite know how it worked, and she didn't quite grasp what we were doing. And so I had quickly explained it to her. Hey, this is what we do and all this. Anyway, some of the kids were misbehaving for her and acting up because they weren't used to having her as the teacher. And she said, you know what we're going to be doing? We're going to sing solos after this. And you know what? You're misbehaving. And so I think I'm going to pick you so you can come up here and get embarrassed. And you're going to be so ashamed and not know anything and get embarrassed in front of everybody. And I was like, no, you just turned my reward into a punishment. But the way she spun it, the way she reframed it, it turned it into a punishment and an insult instead of this, hey, you get to be one of the competitors in this game and maybe win this spread. And so how you frame your rewards. So I found, like, if I want my kids to get their job done, let's say we're going to watch a TV show, and I say, hey, sometimes if I'm agitated, my temptation is to say, you know what, if you don't get to work, you're not going to get to watch the show. And you're not working, you're not going to get to watch the show. And if I'm feeling grouchy, that's what I want to say. But I found that what happens if I say it that way, they start crying and they get discouraged and they don't do the job. Yep. But I can say the same thing in a different way. I say, hey, if you get your job done, you get to watch the TV show. You can do it. Come on. You get to.
Yeah, exactly.
You get to watch the TV show. And they go, oh, and they get to work.
It's uncanny how well it works.
I'm saying the same exact thing, but how I spin it, how I frame it, changes. The one is a punishment and the other's a reward. So when you're framing these things, set it up as a reward. Hey, you can earn this. Absolutely. This is something you
look forward to.
Mom, can I use, instead of saying, Mom, can I use a car? No, not unless you get your job done. Mom, can I use a car? Absolutely you can, as soon as you get your job done.
As soon as you finish edging the lawn.
Same answer. They mean the exact same thing. But the kid is like...
Well, okay, part of it, though, is as a parent, you do want to reward your children. You're excited about it. You genuinely do want your kid to use the car.
Yeah, but if you're aggravated with your kid because they haven't done your job, you're tempted to say, no, not unless you get your job done. but it ruins the relationship.
Yep.
It causes negative feelings. You say the exact same thing, reframe it, and into a reward, say, yes. The answer is you can watch the TV show.
Yes.
You can
that goes
use
back
the
to the
car.
whole if then.
You can. Yes.
You can use the car if you.
So try to, instead of saying no, you can't, say yes, you can.
I love
you
it.
can.
Yes, but you can.
Absolutely, you can. As soon as you get this done, you get to. Yes.
Okay. And then the last thing, we're really long. The last thing I just wanted to touch on briefly.
I hope you guys find this stuff helpful. These were like huge aha moments for me as a mom. These people are rambling on and on. These were helpful to me.
We've really kind of had to work through a lot of these because we understood the concept, but implementing them is totally
if you're not
different.
Raised this way, because I bet some people listening to this are like, duh, this is how I was raised.
Probably.
But for other people, if you weren't raised this way, these are like aha moments of,
I was not raised this way.
I never thought of that.
Not even close. Anyway, the only other thing I wanted to talk about was under-rewarding. Just briefly to touch on that, where under-rewarding is just as bad as over-rewarding. Where when you under-reward, it means that you're paying. There's no possible way your kid can earn enough to do what they want to do.
Oh, they get discouraged.
You get 10 minutes of your video game every month. That's a horrible. Come on.
If it's not realistic, like, oh yeah, you can play soccer if you earn $150 and they can only earn $1 a week.
And so what happens when you under reward is it destroys the motivation to work.
They become hopeless about. It doesn't matter if I work, I'm not going to be able to.
It's really discouraging, and all
anyway.
of a sudden they're like the prisoners on the rock pile, where they're like, well, I'll do the bare minimum so I don't get whooped. Where it's a.
Yeah, but they're not. They know they're not actually working towards something because they're never gonna. It's not possible.
It's a never-ending task, like the prisoners on the rock pile.
Yeah,
where it's like
it's not possible.
I'm just going to be here forever. So
that's, you can figure that out on your own. But that's one of the benefits of our app. Is our app calculates all that
so you
for
don't over-reward or under-reward.
Yeah, it keeps it balanced.
Balance,
okay, if you reward this much, it will keep your child in your with your situation, the number of people in your family, with how much money you make. This amount of pay is not too much and it's not too little. It will keep your child motivated. And so you can calculate that out and figure it out yourself. You can use the app. The app, that's what it does.
Right.
It finds that magic point of this. When you pay your child to do the dishes, this is how much you should pay them.
Yeah.
In your situation with where you're at. So you don't want to overpay and you don't want to underpay, because either way your kids will lose motivation. You have to find that sweet spot.
Phew. Okay. And that is definitely all the time we have today. Enjoy another masterful musical composition by the amazing Falcon Jasper. See you next time.